Hello everybody, this is Reviews and More, back with a quick review on a gaming chair. This is the Respawn RSP210. This is their mesh-backed version of their chair. They've had other ones. I've actually reviewed another one of these chairs. But overall, if you want to just skip the video and say, give me a like and whatever, that's great. If you're looking for instructions on how to put it together, that's what's following. If you just want to know how I feel about the chair is very nice. The price point was good. Normal price, it was like $179 or $169 at Sam's Club. For Black Friday, it was marked down to $99. So for $100, this chair is an amazing deal if you can get it for that much in the future. But if even at like $169, this is a very, very, very good starting gaming chair. If you got a kid who really wants one, it's high quality. It'll last you a while. If you're a person who's heavy like I am, who basically is going to be in this chair all the time, it will wear out because it's made of it's made of like the pleather, the fake leather, like that PU plastic leather stuff they have on the base. Although the backing is mesh and that'll last a long, long time, the base is still going to have the same issues that any kind of fake leather upholstery is going to have. So other than that, from here on, it's just an unboxing video followed by my instructions. So if you only needed to review me kind of giving my rating of the chair, go for it and head on out. Thank you for watching what you watched. If you're looking for a step-by-step that kind of makes more sense in case you're worried you missed something or you're like missing a part and you want to kind of inventory and see what's going on, that's what's coming up next. All right, so overall, this chair does not assemble really any differently than any other gaming chair if you've ever done one before. They're all pretty much the same, but if you're new to this, the first step, as always, is to flip over the little base right there and start putting in the caster wheels. Everyone always asks this, so I'll tell you now, they do not click. These are friction. They adhere using just friction, so it's just basically pressure and weight over time basically makes them sit in there firm. Remember, these are replaceable wheels. Some people like to upgrade them to like rollerblading wheels, so it makes sense that you can remove them, although obviously the longer they're in there, the tighter they'll be to get out. You might need to pull out the wrench or something to get them out if you have them on there for quite a while. But they shouldn't snap or anything like that. Then you're going to put that little rod in there. That's the thing that's going to make the chair go up and down. So make sure you put that in there again, held in by friction. You won't hear a snap. And then you put this little cover over the top of it just to make it look a little bit nicer so you don't have the exposed steel there. And that looks very suggestive in hindsight, but oh well, I'll keep it in the video. All right, and that's that. The base is effectively done at that point. Now you're going to put the brains of the chair. This is the thing that's going to make it actually work. Go up and down, lean back, change, lock in place, all the various functions that office chairs have. It's nice labeled with front, which is very important because you can put these things on backwards because oftentimes the little bases are parallel to each other instead of one side being wider than the other. So you can put these on backwards if you don't pay attention, but luckily the actual base of the seat that it goes on is also labeled with a front label. So unless you are literally illiterate and you can't see colors, and if you can't, I apologize for offending you, but just match them up. There is not that difficult. They make it super duper easy here, so it should be pretty quick. So there's my finger pointing of shame. Look, make the front match the front. That way you won't mess it up. From there, I believe you go with the kit and get the M-sized bolts. They're just the shortest ones. This is also the most numerous bolts in this particular kit. And you take your little hex wrench and just tighten it down really fast. Whenever there's 4 bolts the way this one is, I will basically get them to where they're in there with my hand. I won't hand tighten them, but I'll get them in there, and then I'll tighten them down to a point where they're almost snug, and I'll go diagonal just because building computers you do that, but don't worry about that. It should go in there flush. It should go in there fine, but if there is a snag, if there is something going on like that, undo the screw. If there's a bind, don't continue and just force it because you either mess the bolt up or, God forbid, mess the shaft up and then really just destroy the chair, and it won't be steady or safe if one of those bolts aren't in there, because again, this is where a lot of the weight that's going to be on this chair is located where it's kind of coming to a head right here. So make sure you take good care to make sure they're nice and tight. There are no washers used on this point. We'll get to a point where they do use washers, and I'll explain why. But from this point, you just need to get those things tightened on there, and do make them tight. Don't be shy. Next step is getting the chair actually on top of the piston itself, the little hydraulic piston right there. And from this point, again, there is no snap. You will not hear a click whenever you get this thing on there. So just go ahead and put the thing on, and your weight, again, first thing you should do is sit on it, make sure it goes on there, because once it's on there, it's not coming off. Like, it is not designed to come off easily. It can, but it's not designed to do it easily. So once you get this thing on there, this is now a pain to move around the house because it's big and bulky. So just keep that in mind once you get this on there. Now, nothing's wrong when it's on there. It only goes on one way, so you're not going to really mess that up. But just keep in mind that once it's on, it's on. All right, now for the back of the chair, which looks really cool. It looks a lot nicer than the other models they've had. This one looks kind of space agey and neat. Looks actually like a racing chair. Looks like it goes into a car. But once you get this piece out, you're going to have the backing here, which again is plastic with those little screw bases on it, and then you're going to get what I call the back plate. I think they call it something different in the instructions, but this is basically where the back of the chair is going to be latched onto the base of the chair, which you'll see in the next step. Once you get the screws out, again the same size screws as before, tighten them down. There's 4 of them. Get them good and tight. Don't be shy about it. This is one of those parts of the chair that takes a lot of weight. If you're a guy who's kind of heavy set and you're leaning back in your chair, this is one of the pressure points on the chair, so please make sure it is tightened down, because this is a potential point of failure that doesn't really need to be a point of failure as long as you go ahead and tighten it down properly. So again, get it nice and snug. Whenever I have 4 points like this, I'm trying to get it very tight. I do worry about things being mismatched, so I try to go in like diagonals across and then across from each other until it's tightened. I don't try to tighten one screw down as tight as it can go. I kind of get each one of them snug, then tighten in a diagonal pattern until I get it to the point where it won't turn without some extreme force or breaking out like a torque wrench or something. And then once you get that done, you move on to the next step, which is putting on the back plate. This is probably the most important step, simply because this is where a lot of pressure is put on any given gaming chair, any office chair really. This is where you're going to have a lot of the weight distribution put right at one single pivot point. So again, you're going to see 3 bolts, and this is also the only situation where they actually provide 3 washers to go with them. So even the company knows, hey, this is where we want this thing tight to make sure it does not move. If these bolts go loose, the entire back of the chair gets very wobbly, very unpleasant to deal with, and that does happen if this doesn't get tightened or you forget the washer. So make sure you get the washers on there, and you shouldn't have an issue, but make sure you get it nice and tight. I might even recommend, if you have your own set of Allen wrenches that might have a little bit longer shaft on them that get you a little more torque, going ahead and doing that, just because it makes it so it's a little less like, arthritic hand breaking to get it all done. But just get them in there hand tightened. This is also the biggest pain in the butt because the weight and the angle of the actual back of the chair, it doesn't want to hit there perfectly, so you are going to run into issues where it does feel like it's snagging. Just wiggle the seat around as you turn the hex wrench, and it should loosen up. It's just trying to find that perfect angle to get into the slot. So just keep that in mind as you're running through it. So don't over tighten one all at the same time. Get them all snug and then start going into tighten really tight. But once you do that, it shouldn't be too difficult. The engineers on this weren't super friendly because you can't, the hex wrench they provide is only going to be helpful at one angle. So you're going to sit there and take it in and out, because if you turn the hex wrench into full 360 at certain points, it will smack up against the plastic and scratch it up, or go up against the painted metal and scratch that up, which you don't want to do. So again, that's just one of the things when you get like those IKEA style kits with the hex wrench, you're going to run that issue sometimes. But overall, it's really easy to get this thing on there. It might help to have somebody holding the top of it, just holding it still, but I got it done while trying to film it with my cell phone, leaning at a precarious angle to get the lighting right. So it wasn't too difficult, and I was kind of holding up with my left hand while I was tightening with my right hand. But if you're not steady with your fingers, or if you're just not able to hold it in place, just get someone else to hold it for you. And then you put the back plate on. This is just to cover up all that ugly that you see right there, and it just covers it up. It's just little pegs that go in, nothing really to it. Just snap it in place. There are slots for it to go in to try to angle it properly. I almost broke one of them by accident. I said it was really easy, then I almost broke it. But overall, it just goes right in there. So you see me being an idiot, taking too long to do it because I'm trying to get the lighting right and make sure the camera's doing everything right and get the chair put together. But overall, it just makes the aesthetic look a little bit better, which is a nice touch, because the last chair I got of this brand, they didn't have that aesthetic choice, so you just saw the bolts at the bottom. It looked kind of trashy, but this looks a lot nicer. More like furniture, less like inconvenient gaming utility stuff. And then the armrest. The armrests here are very important. I get asked this question all the time. How are the armrests attached? Are they connected to the back? Yes and yes. The armrest pivot, as in they move when you lean the chair back. So basically the armrest leans with you. So you'll see how they're kind of connected. There's 2 different size bolts. The long bolt goes to the base. The short bolt goes to the back of the chair. So you can screw that up because they are the same width. So make sure you get that right. It is possible the result will be it won't work properly, because the long bolt will not go deep enough into the back and it will be hanging out really far. But you also don't want to you don't want to do anything to stress out the threads on these things, because stuff isn't super expensive. It's not the highest quality, and you can strip things and then it ruins your chair and you got to return stuff or call the company, God forbid. So you get that bait, the first one you get on is the long bolt that goes in the bottom. Get it to where it's snug. Do not tighten it down as if you're going to be done with it and you're finished with the chair. This is going to be loose. That way you can have a little more pliability when you're putting on the top one right here where the armrest meets the back of the chair. If you over tighten the bottom one, you're not going to have as much play to work with when you're putting it on. When you're first inspecting the chair, make sure the little shafts that come out of the chair, make sure they're not goofily bent or anything else, because that will make the stuff not line up, and that stuff can get damaged in transit, factory, poor quality control, whatever. So just double check that before you do it. Mine were not bent, so they work just fine, but I have heard that that does happen where because they're sticking out either through transit, bad quality control at the factory, you do have that issue come up. And also this is where we see the bad engineering, because I have to sit there and take it in and out, because if I were to do a full 360 with the little hex wrench there, I'd scratch up my plastic that's on the armrest, or scratch the fake leather and ruin the upholstery. So just be careful when you're doing it. Don't sit there and try to do 360s around or full circles when you're tightening, and it should be just fine. Then you get the final step. Hooray! All we got to do now is make the ugly holes go away, and they provide plugs for that, including an extra one. Just throw them on there. They're not, this is kind of idiot proof. It's just a plug. It goes in the side. They can come out, so don't panic if you put it on there that you'll never be able to get it out and adjust your chair if you have to. They can come out. You just need to get like a thin knife or something to kind of pop them out and get it worked into your fingernail, can kind of pop it out on its own. But they work just fine. They're pretty standard. And here's my wife's new chair, because that's the person who's going to be using it. That's her office. Sorry, honey, for showing the messy office. But there it is. Do the turn. Get to see. There's the little seat rest on the bottom. You're not going to see me sitting in it. But overall, guys, really happy with the product, and especially for the price of $100 on Black Friday. That's really not typical, but I would say even at the price of $160, which is effectively the price of the first edition of this chair that I bought, this is a major upgrade with the mesh back and having it's a little cooler to the touch, everything else, more fun to sit in for longer periods of time. Very comfortable base, very plush. Overall, very, very happy with the item in total. So thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.